AWS Solution Architect Associate. May-20. Exam Notes. By Cloud Dev. For more information on AWS, visit aws.amazon.com. Thanks to http://clusterefrac.com/notes/cert/aws_saa_notes. Date. Remark. 03 June 2019. 0.1. 21 June 2019. 0.2. 04 Oct 2019. 0.3. 28-04-2020. 1.0. Updated for cosmetic changes. Contents: AWS Solution Architect Associate. 1. Exam Notes. 1.1. Description. 7 Abilities validated by the certification. 8 Recommended knowledge. 8.2. General. 11 Amazon history. 11 Global infrastructure. 14 Tags. 16 Consolidated billing. 18 Active Directory. 19 Best practices. 21 Free service limits. 23.4 AWS support. 23.5 Networking. 26.6 Direct Connect. 46.7 Route 53. 51.8 Compute. 57.9 ELP, Elastic Load Balancer. 74.10 ECS, Elastic Container Service. 81.11 Elastic Beanstalk. 82.12 Lambda. 83.13 Amazon S3. 86.14 CloudFront. 98.15 EFS, Elastic File System. 102.16 Databases. 110.17 DynamoDB, NoSQL. 121 18 ElastiCake. 124.19 DMS, Database Migration Service. 135.20 Analytics. 137.21 Security and Identity. 147.22 Management Tools. 159.23 Application Services. 170.24 Developer Tools. 184.25 Mobile Services. 188.26 Enterprise Applications. 197.27 Well-Architected Framework. 201.28 White Paper Review. 213.29 Additional Notes. 221.30 Encrypted EBS volumes. Error. Bookmark not defined. 1. Description. Notes and information that were collected while studying and prepping for the AWS SA Associate Exam. 3 June 2019. Exam format: multiple choice, multiple answer. Exam type: Associate. Exam time: 130 minutes. No of questions: 65. Exam cost: $150. Exam language: available in English, Japanese, Korean, and simplified Chinese. Abilities validated by the certification. 1. Effectively demonstrate knowledge of how to architect and deploy secure and robust applications on AWS technologies. 2. Define a solution using architectural design principles based on customer requirements. 3. Provide implementation guidance based on best practices to the organization throughout the life cycle of the project. Recommended knowledge. 4. Hands-on experience using compute, networking, storage, and database AWS services. 5. Hands-on experience with AWS deployment and management services. 6. Ability to identify and define technical requirements for an AWS-based application. 7. Ability to identify which AWS services meet a given technical requirement. 8. Knowledge of recommended best practices for building secure and reliable applications on the AWS platform. 9. An understanding of the basic architectural principles of building on the AWS cloud. 10. An understanding of the AWS global infrastructure. 11. An understanding of network technologies as they relate to AWS. 12. An understanding of security features and tools that AWS provides and how they relate to traditional services. 2. General Amazon history. 2003, Chris Pinkman and Benjamin Black presented a paper on what Amazon's internal infrastructure should look like and suggested selling it as a service. 2004, SQS, the first AWS service, launched. 2006, official AWS launch. 2007, 180K devs on platform. 2010, Amazon.com moved to AWS platform. Region is geographical area which consists of at least 2 AZs. 2012, first reInvent conference in Las Vegas. 2013, certifications launched. 2014, AWS committed to achieve 100% renewable energy usage for its global footprint. 2015, AWS broke out its revenue, $6 billion per annum and growing close to 90% year after year. https://p2zk8207hr3yb6ge7gzxx4keyopension.net ssl.com/wp-content/upload/screenshot 2020-02-05 at 9:38:35 am.png. 22 regions, 69 AZs. Global infrastructure. Regions vs availability zones. A region is geographical area which consists of at least 2 availability zones or AZs. An AZ is simply a data center. 22 regions with 69 availability zones, July 3, 2019. Projected to spin more additional regions, with 11 additional AZs over the next year. To deliver content to end users with lower latency, Amazon CloudFront uses a global network of 216 points of presence, 205 edge locations and 11 regional edge caches, in 84 cities across 42 countries, 5 March 20. Support response time: enterprise 15 minutes, business 60 minutes, developer no API support. Services such as CloudFormation, Elastic Beanstalk, Autoscaling, and OpsWorks, AWS Configuration Management Service, are free. However, resources generated by these services are not free. Due to the nature of the service, some AWS services are delivered globally rather than regionally, such as Amazon Route 53, Amazon Chime, Amazon WorkDocs, Amazon WorkMail, Amazon Workspaces, Amazon WorkLink. The network is built on a global, fully redundant, parallel 100 GBE metro fiber network that is linked via transoceanic cables across the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans, as well as the Mediterranean, Red Sea, and South China Seas. Tags. Tags are key/value pairs attached to AWS resources. Metadata is data about data. 2 types: system and user. Metadata size in 2 KB. Sometimes can be inherited. Autoscaling, CloudFormation, Elastic Beanstalk can create other resources. Resource groups make it easy to group your resources using the tags that are assigned to them. You can have group resources that share 1 or more tags. Resource groups contain info such as region, name, health checks. Contains specific info such as pub/private IPs in EC2 instances, port configs for ELP, database engine in RDS. IP address info. Query metadata. ocurl http://169.254.169.254/latest/meta-data. get http://169.254.169.254/latest/meta-data. Metadata only. There is not user data. AWS uses the first 4 and last IP addresses of a subnet, total 5. 0x.x.x.0, network address. 0x.x.x.1, gateway address. 0x.x.x.2, DNS address. 0x.x.x.3, future allocation address. 0x.x.x.255, broadcast address. Consolidated billing. Accounts role for customers. AWS organization service allows you create account for different department but under single billing umbrella. Paying account is independent, cannot access resources of the other accounts. Linked accounts are independent from one another. Currently there is a limit of 20 linked accounts for consolidated billing, soft limit. 1 bill per AWS account. Easy to track charges and allocate costs between linked accounts. Volume pricing discount available. Resources across all linked accounts are tallied, and billing is applied collectively to allow bigger discounts. Active Directory. Provides single sign-on to the AWS console, which authenticates directly off of your Active Directory infrastructure. Uses secure assertive markup language, SAML, authentication responses. Behind the scenes, sign-ins use the assume role with SAML API to request temporary security credentials and then constructs a sign-in URL for the AWS Management Console. Browser will then receive the sign-in URL and will be redirected to the console. You always authenticate against AD first, and then are granted security credentials that allow you to log into the AWS console. You can try AWS Directory Service for Microsoft Active Directory at no additional charge through the Directory Service 30-day limited free trial. AWS Managed Microsoft AD, Enterprise Edition, is designed to support enterprise organizations with up to 500,000 directory objects. AWS Managed Microsoft AD, Standard Edition, up to 5,000 employees. Use cases of AD service, on-premise, integration, etc. Best practices. Business benefits of cloud. Almost zero upfront infrastructure investment. Just-in-time infrastructure. More efficient resource utilization. Usage-based costing. Reduced time to market. Technical benefits of cloud. Automation, scriptable infrastructure. Auto-scaling. Proactive scaling. More efficient development life cycle. Improved testability. DR and business continuity. Overflow the traffic to the cloud. Design for failure. Rule of thumb, be a pessimist when designing architectures in the cloud. Assume things will fail, always design, implement and deploy for automated recovery from failure. Assume your hardware will fail. Assume outages will occur. Assume that some disaster will strike your application. Assume that you will be slammed with more than the expected number of requests per second. Assume that with time your application software will fail too. Decouple your components. Think SQS. Build components that do not have tight dependencies on each other so that if one component dies, fails, sleeps, or becomes busy, the other components are built so they can continue to work as if no failure is happening. Build each component as a black box. Free service limits. Each service has the default limits defined. To see the official AWS documentation on service limits, check here. For AWS support. AWS support offers 4 support plans: Basic, Developer, Business, and Enterprise. The basic plan is free of charge and offers support for account and billing questions and service limit increases. The other plans offer an unlimited number of technical support cases with pay-by-the-month pricing and no long-term contracts, providing the level of support that meets your needs. All AWS customers automatically have around-the-clock access to these features of the basic support plan. Customer service, one-on-one responses to account and billing questions. Support forums. Service health checks. Documentation, white papers, and best practice guides. Slot, basic, developer, 24 HR, business, 1 HR, and enterprise, 15 minutes. Cost, basic, developer, $29, business, $100, and enterprise, $15,000. AWS Concierge. Your AWS Concierge is a senior customer service agent who is assigned to your account when you subscribe to an enterprise or qualified reseller support plan. Technical Account Manager, TAM, for enterprise-level customers. A TAM provides technical expertise for the full range of AWS services and obtains a detailed understanding of your use case and technology architecture. Management Business Reviews. For enterprise-level customers, a TAM helps you tier, execute, and evaluate your infrastructure performance. White Glove Case Routing. Cases submitted by enterprise-level customers are routed directly to specially trained engineers to ensure fast, accurate resolution of critical issues. Resolved cases. You don't respond to a query or request from us for 4 consecutive days. 5 Networking. VPC, Virtual Private Cloud. Lets you provision a logically isolated section of the AWS cloud where you can launch AWS resources in a virtual network that you define. You have complete control over your virtual networking, IP ranges, creation of subnets and configuration of route tables and network gateways. Virtual Data Center in the cloud. Allowed up to 5 VPCs in each AWS region by default. This limit can be increased with a support ticket request. All subnets in default VPC have an internet gateway attached. Multiple IGWs can be created, but only a single IGW can be attached to a VPC. No exceptions. Again, you can only have one internet gateway per VPC. Each EC2 instance has both a public and private IP address. Private subnet EC2 can resolve DNS name from AWS Route 53. If you delete the default VPC, you can create from VPC tab action create default VPC. Subnets are always mapped to a single AZ. Subnets cannot be mapped to multiple AZs. /16 is the largest CIDR block available when provisioning an IP space for a VPC. /28 is the smallest CIDR block available when provisioning an IP space for a VPC. Amazon uses 3 of the available IP addresses in a newly created subnet. Reserved 5 IPS. OX.X.X.0, always subnet network address and is never usable. OX.X.X.1, reserved by AWS for the VPC router. OX.X.X.2, reserved by AWS for subnet DNS. OX.X.X.3, reserved by AWS for future use. OX.X.X.255, always subnet broadcast address and is never usable. By default, all traffic between subnets is allowed. By default, not all subnets have access to the internet. Either an internet gateway or NAT gateway is required for private subnets. A security group can stretch across different AZs. Security groups are stateful, don't need to open inbound and outbound. If inbound is allowed, outbound is auto-allowed, by default. Network access control lists, NACLs, are stateless, must define both inbound and outbound rules. You can also create hardware virtual private network, VPN, connection between your corporate data center and your VPC and leverage the AWS cloud as an extension of your corporate data center. VPC flow logs is a feature that enables the user to capture information about the IP traffic going to and from network interfaces in your VPC. Flow log data is stored using CloudWatch logs. When flow log data is collected, it can be viewed and its data can be retrieved within CloudWatch. Flow logs can be created at 3 different levels: VPC, subnet, and network interface levels. Flow logs via CloudWatch can be configured to stream to services such as Elastic or Lambda. You cannot enable flow logs for VPCs that are peered with your VPC unless the peer VPC is in your account. You cannot tag a flow log. After you have created a flow log, you cannot change its configuration. For example, you cannot associate a different role with the flow log. Not all traffic is monitored. Traffic generated by instances when they contact Route 53 is not monitored or logged. If you use your own DNS server, then all traffic to that DNS server is logged. Traffic generated by a Windows instance for Windows license activation is not monitored or logged. Traffic to and from the metadata service 169.254.169.254 is not monitored or logged. DHCP traffic is not monitored or logged. Traffic to the reserved IP address for the default VPC router is not monitored or logged. Network address translation, NAT, instances. When creating a NAT instance, on the instance or you could encounter issues: disable source/destination checks. NAT instances must be in a public subnet. There must be a route out of the private subnet to the NAT instance in order for it to work. The amount of traffic that NAT instances support depend on the size of the NAT instance. If you are experiencing any sort of bottleneck issues with a NAT instance, then increase the instance size. OHA can be achieved by using auto-scaling groups, or multiple subnets in different AZs with a scripted failover procedure. NAT instances are always behind a security group. Network address translation, NAT, gateway. NAT gateways scale automatically up to 10 Gbps. There is no need to patch NAT gateways as the AMI is handled by AWS. NAT gateways are automatically assigned a public IP address. When a new NAT gateway has been created, remember to update your route table. No need to assign a security group. NAT gateways are not associated with security groups. Preferred in the enterprise. No need to disable source/destination checks. More secure than a NAT instance. Network access control lists, NACL. NACLs are stateless, meaning both inbound and outbound rules must be configured for traditional request/response model. Numbered list of rules that are evaluated in order, starting at the lowest numbered rule first to determine what traffic is allowed in or out depending on what subnet is associated with the rule. The highest rule number is 32,766. Start with rules starting at 100 so you can insert rules if needed. NACLs have separate inbound and outbound rules, and each rule can either allow or deny traffic. The default NACL will allow all traffic in and out by default. Custom NACLs by default will deny all inbound and outbound traffic until allow rules are added. A subnet can be associated with only NACL, whereas for security groups different EC2 can be associated. You must assign a NACL to each subnet. If a subnet is not associated with the NACL, it will allow no traffic in or out. NACL rules are stateless, established in does not create outbound rule automatically. You can only assign a single subnet to a single NACL. When you associate a NACL with a subnet, any previous associations are removed. You can associate a single NACL with multiple subnets. Each subnet in your VPC must be associated with a NACL. If you don't explicitly associate a subnet with an ACL, the subnet automatically gets associated with the default ACL. You can block IP addresses using NACLs, not security groups. VPC peering. Connection between two VPCs that enables you to route traffic between them using private IP addresses via a direct network route. Instances in either VPC can communicate with each other as if they are within the same network. You can create VPC peering connections between your own VPCs or with a VPC in another account within a single region. AWS uses existing infrastructure of a VPC to create a VPC peering connection. It is not a gateway nor a VPN, and does not rely on separate hardware. There is no single point of failure for communication nor any bandwidth bottleneck. There is no transitive peering between VPC peers, can't go through one VPC to get to another. Hub and spoke configuration model, 1-to-1. Be mindful of IPs in each VPC. If multiple VPCs have the same IP blocks, they will not be able to communicate. You can peer VPCs with other AWS accounts as well as with other VPCs in the same account. VPC endpoints allows internal resources such as EC2 instances to reach various AWS services without having to traverse the public internet to get to the service. When you use an endpoint, the source IP address from your instances in your affected subnets for access the AWS service in the same region will use private IP addresses instead of public IP addresses. When configuring VPC endpoints, existing connections from your affected subnets to the AWS service that use public IP addresses may be dropped. Resource or operation. Default limit. Comments. VPCs per region. 5. The limit for Internet gateways per region is directly correlated to this one. Increasing this limit will increase the limit on Internet gateways per region by the same amount. Resource or operation. Default limit. Comments. Subnets per VPC. 200. Internet gateways per region. 5. This limit is directly correlated with the limit on VPCs per region. You cannot increase this limit individually. The only way to increase this limit is to increase the limit on VPCs per region. Only one Internet gateway can be attached to a VPC at a time. Customer gateways per region. 50. VPN connections per region. 50. VPN connections per VPC, per virtual private gateway. 10. Resource or operation. Default limit. Comments. Route tables per VPC. 5. Including the main route table. You can associate one route table to one or more subnets in a VPC. Routes per route table, non-propagated routes. 50. This is the limit for the number of non-propagated entries per route table. You can submit a request for an increase of up to a maximum of 100, however, network performance may be impacted. BGP advertised routes per route table, propagated routes. 5. You can have up to 100 propagated routes per route table, however, the total number of propagated and non-resource or operation. Default limit. Comments. Propagated entries per route table cannot exceed 100. For example, if you have 50 non-propagated entries, the default limit for this type of entry, you can only have 50 propagated entries. This limit cannot be increased. If you require more than 100 prefixes, advertise a default route. Elastic IP addresses per region for each AWS account. 5. This is the limit for the number of VPC elastic IP addresses you can allocate within a region. This is a separate limit from the Amazon EC2 elastic IP address limit. Resource or operation. Default limit. Comments. Security groups per VPC. 500. Inbound or outbound rules per security group. 50. You can have 50 inbound and 50 outbound rules per security group, giving a total of 100 combined inbound and outbound rules. If you need to increase or decrease this limit, you can contact AWS support. A limit change applies to both inbound and outbound rules. However, the multiple of the limit for inbound or outbound rules per security group and the limit for security groups per network interface cannot exceed 250. 4. Resource or operation. Default limit. Comments. Example, if you want to increase the limit to 100, we decrease your number of security groups per network interface to 2. Security groups per network interface. 5. If you need to increase or decrease this limit, you can contact AWS support. The maximum is 16. The multiple of the limit for security groups per network interface and the limit for rules per security group cannot exceed 250. For example, if you want 10 security groups per network interface, we decrease your number of rules per security group to resource or operation. Default limit. Comments. 25. Network interfaces per instance. N/A. This limit varies by instance type. For more information, see private IP addresses per ENI per instance type. Network interfaces per region. 350. This limit is the greater of either the default limit, 350, or your on-demand instance limit multiplied by 5. The default limit for on-demand instances is 20. If your on-demand instance limit is below 70, the default limit of 350 applies. You can increase the number of network interfaces per region by resource or operation. Default limit. Comments. Contacting AWS support, or by increasing your on-demand instance limit. Network ACLs per VPC. 200. You can associate one network ACL to one or more subnets in a VPC. This limit is not the same as the number of rules per network ACL. Rules per network ACL. 20. This is the one-way limit for a single network ACL, where the limit for ingress rules is 20, and the limit for egress rules is 20. This limit can be increased upon request up to a maximum of 40, however, network performance may be resource or operation. Default limit. Comments. Impacted due to the increased workload to process the additional rules. Active VPC peering connections per VPC. 50. If you need to increase this limit, contact AWS support. The maximum limit is 125 peering connections per VPC. The number of entries per route table should be increased accordingly, however, network performance may be impacted. Outstanding VPC peering connection requests. 25. This is the limit for the number of outstanding VPC peering connection requests that you've resource or operation. Default limit. Comments. Requested from your account. Expiry time for an unaccepted VPC peering connection request. 1 week, 168 HRS. VPC endpoints per region. 20. The maximum limit is 255 endpoints per VPC, regardless of your endpoint limit per region. Flow logs per single ENI, single subnet, or single VPC in a region. 2. You can effectively have 6 flow logs per network interface if you create 2 flow logs for the subnet, and 2 flow logs for the VPC in which your network interface resides. This limit cannot be increased. Resource or operation. Default limit. Comments. NAT gateways per availability zone. 5. A NAT gateway in the pending, active, or deleting state counts against your limit. For additional information about VPC limits, see limits in Amazon VPC. 6. Direct Connect. AWS Direct Connect lets you establish a dedicated network connection between your network and one of the AWS Direct Connect locations. Using industry standard 802.1 QVLANs. DX or Direct Connect makes it easy to establish a dedicated network connection from your premises to AWS. Using DX, you can establish private connectivity between AWS and your data center, office, or colocation environment. Requires a dedicated line such as MPLS, or other circuit ran from telco. From this line, you would have a cross-connect from your on-premises device direct to AWS data centers. Using DX can reduce network costs, increase bandwidth throughput and provide a more consistent network experience than internet-based connections. Lets you establish a dedicated network connection between your network and one of the AWS DX locations. Uses industry standard 802.1 QVLANs. Dedicated connections can be partitioned into multiple virtual interfaces. Same connection can be used to access public resources such as objects stored in S3 using public IPs and private resources such as EC2 instances running in a VPC using private IPs, all while maintaining network separation between the public and private environments. Virtual interfaces can be reconfigured at any time to meet changing needs. Offers more bandwidth and a more consistent network experience over using VPN-based solutions. VPC VPN connections utilize IPsec to establish encrypted network connectivity between your intranet and your AWS VPC over the internet. VPN connections can be configured in minutes and are a good solution if you have an immediate need. DX does not involve the internet. Instead, it uses dedicated private network connections between your intranet and AWS VPC. Resource or operation. Default limit. Comments. Resource or operation. Default limit. Comments. Virtual interfaces per AWS Direct Connect connection. 50. Active AWS Direct Connect connections per region per account. 50. Routes per Border Gateway Protocol, BGP, session. 100. This limit cannot be increased. Use cases. Hybrid cloud architecture. Direct Connect can help you build hybrid environments that satisfy regulatory requirements requiring the use of private connectivity. Backup and data archive. Disaster recovery. Real-time data feeds. 7. Route 53. Amazon Route 53 is a highly available and scalable cloud domain name system, DNS, web service. ELBs do not have a predefined IPv4 address. You resolve them using a DNS name. The apex domain record must be a record or an alias. Aliases map AWS resources to zone records. Name is wrong choice. Alias records you are not charged for, name records you are charged for. Always choose an alias record over a name record, as alias records are free and can be mapped to a domain apex record where names cannot. Limit of 50 domain names can be managed in Route 53. This limit can be raised by support. Route 53 routing policies. Simple. Default routing policy when you create a new record set. Use simple routing when you need to route traffic to a single resource. Single record DNS. Most common when you have a single resource that performs given function for your domain. Route 53 will respond to DNS queries that are only in the record set. No intelligence is built into the response. Weighted. Let you split traffic based on different weights defined. One AZ can be set to 90%, and another can be set to 10% for example. Latency. Allows you to route your traffic based on the lowest network latency for your end user. Which region will give them the fastest response time? Create a latency resource record set in each region that hosts your website. When Route 53 receives a query for your site, it selects the latency resource for the region that gives the user the lowest latency. Failover. Used when you want to create an active/passive setup. Route 53 will monitor the health of your primary site using a health check. Health check monitors the health of your endpoints. Geolocation. Lets you choose where your traffic will be sent based on the geographic location of your users. Good if you want all queries from Europe to be routed to a fleet of EC2 instances in one of the EU regions. Servers in these locations could have all prices and language set to EU standards, for example. Multi-value answer routing. Use a multi-value answer routing policy when you're creating more than one record of the same name and type. Routing traffic to multiple resources. Associating a Route 53 health check with records. When a client makes a DNS request with multi-value answer routing, Route 53 responds to DNS queries with up to 8 healthy records selected at random for the particular domain name. Geoproximity, route you to closed geolocation. DNS can use load balance for on-premise websites. DNS can resolve queries for IP not owned by AWS stack. Resource or operation. Default limit. Hosted zones. 500. Domains. 50. Resource or operation. Default limit. Resource record sets per hosted zone. 10,000. Reusable delegation sets. 100. Hosted zones that can use the same reusable delegation set. 100. Amazon VPCs that you can associate with a private hosted zone. 100. Health checks. 50. Traffic policies. 50. Policy records. 5. For additional information about Route 53 limits, see limits in Amazon Route 53. 8. Compute. EC2, Elastic Compute Cloud. Elastic Compute Cloud, backbone of AWS, provides resizable compute capacity in the cloud. Reduces the time required to obtain and boot new server instances to minutes, allowing you to quickly scale capacity, both up and down, as your computing requirements change. Once an instance has been launched with instance store storage, you cannot attach additional instance store volumes after the instance is launched, only EBS volumes. When using an instance store volume, you cannot stop the instance. The option to do so will not be available, as the instance moves to another host and would cause complete data loss. When using ephemeral storage, an underlying host failure will result in data loss. You can reboot both instance types, W/ephemeral and EBS volumes, and will not lose data, but again, an ephemeral volume-based instance cannot be stopped. By default, both root volumes will be deleted on termination. However, you can tell AWS to keep the root device volume on a new instance during launch. You can pull an instance's metadata by using curl http://169.254.169.254/latest/meta-data. You can get an instance's IP address by using curl http://169.254.169.254/latest/meta-data/public-IPv4. No such thing as user data. Remember, it's always metadata, not user data. Can encrypt root volumes. You can have up to 10 tags per EC2 instance. AWS does not recommend ever putting RAID 5s on EBS. When configuring a launch configuration for an auto-scaling group, the health check grace period is the period of time to ignore health checks while instances or auto-scaled instances are added and booting. Termination protection is turned off by default. You must turn it on roles. You can only assign an EC2 role to an instance on create. You cannot assign a role after the instance has been created and/or is running. You can change the permissions on a role post-creation, but cannot assign a new role to an existing instance. Role permissions can be changed, but not swapped. Roles are more secure than storing your access key and secret key on individual EC2 instances. Roles are easier to manage. You can assign a role, and change permissions on that role at any time, which take effect immediately. Roles can only be assigned when that EC2 instance is being provisioned. Roles are universal. You can use them in any region. Instance sizing. Instance. Purpose. Recommended application. T2. Lowest cost general purpose. Web/small DBS. M4. General purpose. App servers. M3. General purpose. App servers. C4. Compute optimized. CPU intensive apps/DBS. C3. Compute optimized. CPU intensive apps/DBS. R3. Memory optimized. Memory intensive apps/DBS. G2. Graphics/general purpose. Video encoding/machine learning/3D app streaming. I2. High speed storage. NoSQL DBS, Data warehousing. D2. Dense storage. File servers / data warehousing / Hadoop. D. Density. I. IOPS. R. RAM. T. Cheap general purpose. M. Main general purpose. C. Compute. G. Graphics. Storage types. O. Instance store, ephemeral. Also referred to as ephemeral storage and is not persistent. Instances using instance store storage cannot be stopped. If they are, data loss would result. If there is an issue with the underlying host and your instance needs to be moved, or is lost, data is also lost. Instance store volumes cannot be detached and reattached to other instances, they exist only for the life of that instance. Best used for scratch storage, storage that can be lost at any time with no bad ramifications, such as a cache store. No snapshots possible. Temporary storage like cache, buffer, storing temporary data etc. OEBS, elastic block storage. Elastic block storage is persistent storage that can be used to procure storage to EC2 instances. You cannot mount one EBS volume to multiple EC2 instances, instead you must use EFS. Default action for EBS volumes is for the root EBS volume to be deleted when the instance is terminated. By default, root volumes will be deleted on termination, however with EBS volumes only, you can tell AWS to keep the root device volume. EBS-backed instances can be stopped, you will not lose any data. EBS volumes can be detached and reattached to other EC2 instances. 3 types of available EBS volumes can be provisioned and attached to an EC2 instance. General Purpose SSD, GP2. General Purpose up to 10,000 IOPS. 99.999% availability. Ratio of 3 IOPS per GB with up to 10,000 IOPS and ability to burst. Up to 3K IOPS for short periods for volumes under 1 GB. Provisioned IOPS SSD, I01. Designed for IO-intensive applications such as large relational or NoSQL DBS. Use if need more than 10,000 IOPS till 40,000. Magnetic, standard. Lowest cost per GB. Ideal for workloads where data is accessed infrequently and apps where the lowest cost storage is important. Ideal for file servers. Encryption. Root volume can be encrypted. AMIS. OAMIs are simply snapshots of a root volume and is stored in S3. OAMIs are regional. You can only launch an AMI from the region in which it was stored. You can copy AMIs to other regions using the console, CLI, or Amazon EC2 API. Provides information required to launch a VM in the cloud. Template for the root volume for the instance, OS, apps, etc. Permissions that control which AWS accounts can use the AMI to launch instances. When you create an AMI, by default it's marked private. You have to manually change the permissions to make the image public or share images with individual accounts. Block device mapping that specifies volumes to attach to the instance when it's launched. Hardware virtual machines, HVM, AMIs available. Paravirtual, EV, AMIs available. Gives options while booting. Not very common and popular option. You can select an AMI based on region, OS, architecture, 32 versus 64-bit. Launch permissions. Storage for the root device, instance store vs EBS. Security groups. Act like virtual firewalls for the associated EC2 instance. If you edit a security group, it takes effect immediately. You cannot set any deny rules in security groups, you can only set allow rules. There is an implicit deny any at the end of the security group rules. You don't need outbound rules for any inbound request. Rules are stateful, meaning that any request allowed in is automatically allowed out. You can have any number of EC2 instances associated with a security group. Snapshots. You can take a snapshot of a volume. This will store that volume snapshot on S3. Snapshots are point-in-time copies of volumes. The first snapshot will be a full snapshot of the volume and can take a little time to create. Snapshots are incremental, which means that only the blocks that have changes since your last snapshot are moved to S3. Snapshots of encrypted volumes are encrypted automatically. Volumes restored from encrypted snapshots are encrypted automatically. You can share snapshots but only if they are not encrypted. Snapshots can be shared with other AWS accounts or made public in the marketplace again as long as they are not encrypted. If you are making a snapshot of a root volume, you should stop the instance before taking the snapshot. RAID volumes. If you take a snapshot, the snapshot excludes data held in the cache by applications or OS. This tends to not be an issue on a single volume, however multiple volumes in a RAID array can cause a problem due to interdependencies of the array. Take an application consistent snapshot. Stop the application from writing to disk. Flush all caches to the disk. Snapshot of RAID array -and GT3 methods. Freeze the file system. Unmount the RAID array. Shut down the EC2 instance -and GT, take snapshot -and GT, turn it back on. Placement groups. A logical group of instance in a single AZ. Using placement groups enables applications to participate in a low latency, 10 Gbps network. Placement groups are recommended for applications that benefit from low network latency, high network throughput, or both. A placement group can't span multiple AZs, so it is a SPOF. Then name you specify for a placement group must be unique within your AWS account. Only certain types of instances can be launched in a placement group. Computer optimized, GPU, memory optimized, and storage optimized. AWS recommends that you use the same instance family and same instance size within the instance group. You can't merge placement groups. You can't move an existing instance into a placement group. You can create an AMI from your existing instance and then launch a new instance from the AMI into a placement group. Pricing models. On demand. Pay fixed rate by the hour with no commitment. Users that want the low cost and flexibility of EC2. Apps with short-term, spiky or unpredictable workloads that cannot be interrupted. Apps being developed or tested on EC2 for the first time. Reserved. Provide capacity reservation and offer significant discount on the hourly charge for an instance, 1 to 3 year terms. Applications have steady state, or predictable usage. Apps that require reserved capacity. Users able to make upfront payments to reduce their total computing costs even further. Spot. Bid whatever price you want for instance capacity by the hour. When your bid price is greater than or equal to the spot price, your instance will boot. When the spot price is greater than your bid price, your instance will terminate with 2 minutes notice. Warning for spot instances is available via Amazon CloudWatch Event CLI. Applications have flexible start and end times. Apps that are only feasible at very low compute prices. Users with urgent computing needs for large amounts of additional capacity. If the spot instance is terminated by Amazon EC2, you will not be changed for a partial hour of usage. If you terminate the instance yourself, you will be charged for any partial hours of usage. Resource or operation. Default limit. Elastic IP addresses for EC2 Classic. 5. Security groups for EC2 Classic per instance. 500. Rules per security group for EC2 Classic. 100. Key pairs. 5000. On-demand instances. Varies based on instance type. Spot instances. Varies based on instance type. Reserved instances. 20 instance reservations per availability zone, per month. Dedicated hosts. Up to 2 dedicated hosts per instance family or region can be allocated. AMI copies. Destination regions are limited to 50. Resource or operation. Default limit. Concurrent AMI copies at a time, with no more than 25 of those coming from a single source region. Throttle on the emails that can be sent. Throttle applied. Tags per EC2 instance. 10. ELB, Elastic Block Storage Limits. Resource or operation. Default limit. Number of EBS volumes. 5,000. Number of EBS snapshots. 10,000. Total volume storage of general purpose SSD, GP2, volumes. 20 TB. Resource or operation. Default limit. Total volume storage of provisioned IOPS SSD, IO1, volumes. 20 TB. Total volume storage of throughput optimized HDD, ST1. 20 TB. Total volume storage of cold HDD, SC1. 20 TB. Total volume storage of magnetic volumes. 20 TB. Total provisioned IOPS. 40,000. For additional information about EC2 limits, see limits in Amazon EC2. 9 ELB, Elastic Load Balancer. Elastic Load Balancing offers 3 types of load balancers that both feature high availability, automatic scaling, and robust security. These include the Classic Load Balancer, routes traffic based on either application or network level information. Application Load Balancer, that routes traffic based on advanced application level information that includes the content of the request. Works at L7. Network Load Balancer, works on L3 and L4 layer. When configuring ELB health checks, bear in mind that you may want to create a file like healthcheck.html or point the ping path of the health check to the main index file in your application. Remember, the health check interval is how often a health check will occur. Your healthy/unhealthy thresholds are how many times either will check before marking the origin either healthy or unhealthy. O health check interval, 10 seconds. O unhealthy threshold, 2. O healthy threshold, 3. O this means that if the health check interval occurs twice without success, then the source will be marked as unhealthy. This is 2 checks at 10 seconds per check, so basically after 20 seconds the origin will be marked unhealthy. O likewise, if the healthy threshold is marked at 3, then it would be 3x health check interval or 10 seconds being 30 seconds. After 30 seconds with 3 consecutive success checks, the origin will be marked as healthy. Enable cross-zone load balancing will distribute load across all back-end instances, even if they exist in different AZs. Cross-region load balancing with ELB is not possible, but with the help of Route 53, it is possible. ELBs are never given public IP addresses, only a public DNS name. ELBs can be in service or out of service depending on health check results. Charged by the hour and on a per GB basis of usage. Must be configured with at least 1 listener. A listener must be configured with a protocol and a port for front-end, client to ELB connection, as well as a protocol and port for back-end, ELB to instances connection. ELBs support HTTP, HTTPS, TCP, and SSL, secure TCP. ELBs support all ports, 1 to 65,535. ELBs do not support multiple SSL certificates. Classic ELBs support the following ports: 025, SMTP, 080, HTTP, 0443, HTTPS, 0465, SMTPS, 0587, SMTPS, 1024 to 65,535. HTTP error codes. 0200, the request has succeeded. 03XX, redirection. 04XX, client error, 404 not found. O5XX, server error. Application load balancer limit. Default limit. Load balancers per region. 20. Target groups per region. 50. Listeners per load balancer. 10. Targets per load balancer. 1000. Subnets per availability zone per load balancer. 1. Security groups per load balancer. 5. Rules per load balancer, excluding defaults. 10. Application load balancer limit. Default limit. No of times a target can be registered per LB. 100. Load balancers per target group. 1. Targets per target group. 1000. Classic load balancer limit. Default limit. Load balancers per region. 20. Listeners per load balancer. 100. Subnets per availability zone per load balancer. 1. Security groups per load balancer. 5. Load balancers per region limit. Note, this limit includes both your application/network load balancers and your classic load balancers. This limit can be increased upon request. 10 ECS, Elastic Container Service. Amazon EC2 Container Service, ECS, is a highly scalable, high-performance container management service that supports Docker containers and allows you to easily run applications on a managed cluster of Amazon EC2 instances. Resource or operation. Default limit. Number of clusters per region per account. 1000. Number of container instances per cluster. 1000. Resource or operation. Default limit. Number of services per cluster. 500. For additional information about Elastic Container Service limits, see limits in Amazon ECS. 11 Elastic Beanstalk. AWS Elastic Beanstalk is an easy-to-use service for deploying and scaling web applications and services developed with Java, .NET, PHP, Node.js, Python, Ruby, Go, and Docker on familiar servers such as Apache, Inks, Passenger, and IIS. Resource or operation. Default limit. Applications. 1000. Application versions. 1000. Resource or operation. Default limit. Environments. 500. 12 Lambda. Compute service that runs your code in response to events and automatically manages the underlying compute infrastructure resources for you. Serverless processing. AWS Lambda can automatically run code in response to modifications to objects in S3 buckets, messages arriving in Amazon Kinesis streams, table updates in DynamoDB, API call logs created by CloudTrail, and custom events from mobile applications, web applications, or other web services. Lambda runs your code on high availability compute infrastructure and performs all of the administration of the compute resources, including server and operating system maintenance, capacity provisioning and automatic scaling, node and security patch deployment, and code monitoring and logging. All you need to do is supply the code. Supports Node.js, Python 2.x, Java. 99.99% availability for both the service itself and the functions it operates. First 1 million requests are free. 0.20 per 1 million requests thereafter. Duration is calculated from the time your code begins executing until it returns or otherwise terminates, rounded up to the nearest 100 milliseconds. The price depends on the amount of memory you allocate to your function. You are charged 0.00001667 for every GB second used. Free tier gives you 1 million free requests per month, and 400 KB seconds of compute time per month. The memory size you choose for your functions determines how long they can run in the free tier. The Lambda free tier does not automatically expire at the end of your 12-month AWS free tier term, but is available to both existing and new AWS customers indefinitely. Functions can be ran in response to HTTP requests using API gateway or API calls made using AWS SDKs. Resource or operation. Default limit. Concurrent request safety throttle per account. 100. For additional information about Lambda limits, see limits in Amazon Lambda. 13. Amazon S3. S3, Simple Storage Service. Amazon Simple Storage Service, Amazon S3, provides developers and IT teams with secure, durable, highly scalable cloud storage. Amazon S3 is easy to use object storage, with a simple web service interface to store and retrieve any amount of data from anywhere on the web. Object-based storage only for files, cannot install OS or applications. Data is spread across multiple devices and multiple facilities. Can lose 2 AZs and still have access to your files. Files can be between 1 byte and 5 TB, and has no storage limit. Files are stored flatly in buckets. Folders don't really exist, but are part of the file name. S3 bucket names have a universal namespace, meaning each bucket name must be globally unique. S3 stores data in alphabetical order, lexicographical order. Use parallel read. One thread can read 3,500 requests per second. You can have 10 connection to achieve 35,000 read per second. You should use retry option to boost performance. S3 URL structures are region/amazon.aws.com/bucket name, https://s3-eu-west-1.amazonaws.com/myawesomebucket. Read after write consistency for puts of new objects. As soon as you write an object, it is immediately available. Eventual consistency for overwrite puts and deletes. Updating or deleting an object could take time to propagate. S3 is basically a key value store and consists of the following. O key, name of the object. O value, data made up of bytes. O version ID, important for versioning. O metadata, data about what you are storing. O ACLS, permissions for stored objects. Amazon guarantees 99.99% availability for the S3 platform. Amazon guarantees 99.999999999% durability for S3 information, 11x9s. Tiered storage, and lifecycle management available. Versioning is available but must be enabled. It is off by default. Offers encryption, and allows you to secure the data using ACLS. S3 charges for storage, requests, and data transfer. Bucket names must be all lowercase, however in US standard if creating with the CLI tool, it will allow capital letters. The Transfers tab shows uploads, downloads, permission changes, storage class changes, etc. When you upload a file to S3, by default it is set private. You can transfer files up to 5 GB using put requests. You can set up access control to control your bucket's access by using bucket policies or ACLS. Change the storage class under the Properties tab when an object is selected. S3 buckets can be configured to create access logs which logs all requests to the S3 bucket. S3 events include SNS, or SQS events or Lambda functions. Lambda is location specific, not available in South Korea. All storage tiers have SSL support, millisecond first byte latency, and support lifecycle management policies. Storage tiers. O standard S3. Stored redundantly across multiple devices in multiple facilities. Designed to sustain the loss of 2 facilities concurrently. 11:9's durability, 99.99% availability. OS3IA, infrequently accessed. Or data that is accessed less frequently, but requires rapid access when needed. Data with unknown pattern. Lower fee than S3, but you are charged a retrieval fee. Also designed to sustain the loss of 2 facilities concurrently. 11:9's durability, 99.99% availability. Reduced redundancy storage, RSS. Use for data such as thumbnails or data that could be regenerated. Costs less than standard S3. Designed to provide 99.99% durability and 99.99% availability of objects over a year. Designed to sustain the loss of a single facility. Glacier. Very cheap, stores data for as little as 1 cent per gigabyte, per month. Optimized for data that is infrequently accessed. Used for archival only. Retrieval options. Expedite, 1 to 5 minutes. Standard, 5 to 7 HR. Bulk, 12 HRS. Starting from November 21, 2016, you can use expedited retrievals to access data in 5 minutes for a flat rate of 3 cents per GB retrieved. Versioning and cross-region replication, CRR. Versioning must be enabled in order to take advantage of cross-region replication. Versioning resides under Cross-Region Replication tab. Once versioning is turned on, it cannot be turned off, it can only be suspended. If you truly wanted versioning off, you would have to create a new bucket and move your objects. When versioning is enabled, you will see a slider tab at the top of the console that will enable you to hide/show all versions of files in the bucket. If a file is deleted, for example, you need to slide this tab to show in order to see previous versions of the file. With versioning enabled, if you delete a file, S3 creates a delete marker for that file, which tells the console to not display the file any longer. In order to restore a deleted file, you simply delete the delete marker file, and the file will then be displayed again in the bucket. To move back to a previous version of a file including a deleted file, simply delete the newest version of the file or the delete marker, and the previous version will be displayed. Versioning does store multiple copies of the same file. So in the example of taking a 1 megabyte file, and uploading it, currently your storage usage would be 1 megabyte. Now if you update the file with small tweaks, so that content changes, but the size remains the same, and upload it. With the version tab on hide, you will see only the single updated file. However, if you select show on the slider, you will see that both the original 1 megabyte file exists as well as the updated 1 megabyte file, so your total S3 usage is now 2 megabytes, not 1 megabyte. Versioning does not support deduplication or any similar technology currently. Deduplication means avoiding duplication contents in the file. For cross-region replication, CRR, as long as versioning is enabled, clicking on the tab will now give you the ability to suspend versioning, and enable cross-region replication. Cross-region replication, CRR, has to be enabled on both the source and destination buckets in the selected regions. Destination bucket must be created and again globally unique, can be created right from the versioning tab, in the CRR configuration section via button. You have the ability to select a separate storage class for any cross-region replication destination bucket. CRR does not replicate existing objects, only future objects, meaning that only objects stored post turning the feature on will be replicated. Any object that already exists at the time of turning CRR on, will not be automatically replicated. Versioning integrates with lifecycle management and also supports MFA delete capability. This will use MFA to provide additional security against object deletion. Lifecycle management. When clicking on lifecycle, and adding a rule can be applied to either the entire bucket or a single folder in a bucket. Rules can be set to move objects to either separate storage tiers or delete them all together. Can be applied to current version and previous versions. If multiple actions are selected, for example transition from STD to IA storage 30 days after upload, and then archive 60 days after upload is also selected. Once an object is uploaded, 30 days later the object will be moved to IA storage. 30 days after that the object will be moved to Glacier. Calculates based on upload date, not action data. Transition from STD to IA storage class requires minimum of 30 days. You cannot select or set any data range less than 30 days. Archive to Glacier can be set at a minimum of 1 day if STD-and GTIA is not set. If STD-and GTIA is set, then you will have to wait a minimum of 60 days to archive the object because the minimum for STD-and GTIA is 30 days, and the transition to Glacier then takes an additional 30 days. When you enable versioning, there will be 2 sections in Lifecycle Management tab. One for the current version of an object, and another for previous versions. Minimum file size for IA storage is 128K for an object. Can set policy to permanently delete an object after a given time frame. If versioning is enabled, then the object must be set to expire, before it can be permanently deleted. Cannot move objects to reduced redundancy using lifecycle policies. S3 Transfer Acceleration. Utilizes the CloudFront Edge network to accelerate your uploads to S3. Instead of uploading directly to your S3 bucket, you can use a distinct URL to upload directly to an Edge location which will then transfer the file to S3. This topic is covered in AWS Solutions Architect Study Guide. There is a test utility available that will test uploading direct to S3 vs through transfer acceleration, which will show the upload speed from different global locations. Turning on and using transfer acceleration will incur an additional fee. 2 types of encryption available. In transit. Uses SSL/TLS to encrypt the transfer of the object. At rest, AES 256. Server side, S3 Managed Keys, SSE S3. Server side, AWS Key Management Service, Managed Keys, SSE KMS. Server side, encryption with customer provided keys, SSEC. Client side encryption. Pricing, what you're charged for when using S3. Storage used. Number of requests. Data transfer. Resource or operation. Default limit. Buckets per account. 100. Resource or operation. Default limit. Largest file size you can transfer with PUT request. 5 GB. Minimum file size. 1 byte. Maximum file size. 5 TB. For additional information about S3 limits, see limits in Amazon S3. 14 CloudFront. Amazon CloudFront is a global content delivery network, CDN, service that accelerates delivery of your websites, APIs, video content or other web assets. Edge location is the location where content will be cached, separate from an AWS region/AZ. Origin is the origin of all files, can be S3, EC2 instance, ELB, or Route 53. Distribution is the name given to the CDN which consists a collection of edge locations. Distribution name is case sensitive, can be only lowercase. Web distributions are used for websites. RTMP, real-time messaging protocol, used for streaming media typically around Adobe Flash files. Edge locations can be R/W and will accept a PUT request on an edge location, which then will replicate the file back to the origin. Objects are cached for the life of the TTL, 24 hours by default. You can clear objects from edge locations, but you will be charged. When enabling CloudFront from an S3 origin, you have the option to restrict bucket access. This will disable the direct link to the file in the S3 bucket, and ensure that the content is only served from CloudFront. The path pattern uses regular expressions. You can restrict access to your distributions using signed URLs. You can assign web application firewall rules to your distributions. Distribution URLs are going to be non-pretty names such as random_characters.cloudfront.com. You can create a name that points to the CloudFront name to make the URL user-friendly. You can restrict content based on geographical locations in the Behaviors tab. You can create custom error pages via the Error Pages tab. Purging content is handled in the Invalidations tab. Resource or operation. Default limit. Data transfer rate per distribution. 40 Gbps. Requests per second per distribution. 100,000. Web distributions per account. 200. Resource or operation. Default limit. RTMP distributions per account. 100. Alternate domain names, CNAMEs, per distribution. 100. Origins per distribution. 25. Cache behaviors per distribution. 25. Whitelisted headers per cache behavior. 10. Whitelisted cookies per cache behavior. 10. SSL certificates per account when serving HTTPS requests using dedicated IP addresses, no limit when serving HTTPS requests using SNI. 2. Custom headers that you can have Amazon CloudFront forward to the origin. 10 name value pairs. For additional information about CloudFront limits, see limits in Amazon CloudFront. 15 EFS, Elastic File System.